Everyone talks about how easy the AK-47 is to maintain, how an untrained conscript can do it. Well, buddy, it doesn't have shit on the FAL. Even a conscript idiot can do it. Today on TFBTV, we have the DSA Bush Tracker, aka my nickname in college. What is the Bush Tracker and why is it so controversial? Simply, it's a mostly traditional 21-inch FAL and Rhodesian brushstroke, which is similar to what you've seen in photos from the Rhodesian Bush War. Rhodesia. I bet almost all of you couldn't find it on a map if you tried. That's because it doesn't exist anymore. So if you did find it on your map, then it's time to update your charts. Rhodesia was more or less colonial Zimbabwe. Even mentioning the name tends to get people riled up because to some people, Rhodesia represents the European colonialization of a historically African country, while to others, it's a story of a civilized democratic country under pressure from pro-communist regimes seeking to capitalize on a volatile political situation in an isolated nation. On one hand, you've got super woke, traditionally liberal publications decrying any reference to Rhodesia as a white supremacist dog whistle. And on the other hand, I guess you have white supremacists sometimes using Rhodesia as a dog whistle. But only a Sith deals in absolutes. I asked ChatGPT, our new overlord, is Rhodesian camo hate speech? The answer: whether Rhodesian apparel can be considered a form of hate speech depends on the context and the intent of the person wearing it. Wonderfully stated, in my opinion. And while some skepticism can be reasonable, we shouldn't presume automatically that just because someone's a Rhodesia LARPer, they're a bad person, just like we don't presently presume that because someone's a Wehrmacht gun perv, they're a closet Nazi. But to be fair, we should be aware that people can reasonably interpret some forms of symbolism by face value, especially when those symbols have indeed been adopted as symbols of hate in recent history. And now that I've pissed off every single person watching this video, let's talk about one of my most favorite historical rifles, the Rhodesian FAL. Special Forces vet and well-known YouTuber Larry Vickers has expressed admiration for the strategic ingenuity of Rhodesian Special Forces, responsible for, in his words, some of the most daring special operations missions in history on a shoestring. Myself, I'm just here for the shorts, bro. The Selous Scouts, I think that's how you say it, Selous. I heard a British guy, like with a British accent, say Selous, and therefore, in my mind, that's the correct way to say it. But I've heard people say like Celis, Celis, whatever. I don't care.
But for the Selous Scouts, the training goes a long way beyond this.
Anyways, these guys were well known for their unusual but extremely sexy Hoochie Daddy shorts, but they're also associated with the Belgian FAL, often sanitized of any markings or serial numbers for political deniability. They would then be coated in a makeshift camouflage pattern using old combat airplane paint. The hue that they would often end up with these blues and greens and yellows, now is affectionately referred to as baby poop green. What is the FN FAL? How did it come to be identified with Rhodesia's elite forces? And what absolutely sucks about the traditional, original FAL rifle? Can this old rifle be successfully modernized to be a practical tool? We look at all of those things and more, plus shorts, in today's episode of TFBTV. First, let's talk about the specs of this particular rifle. Mine's a little bit modified. The DSA SA58 21-inch Bush Tracker rifle. First thing you noticed, done up in a very attractive pale green and yellow Rhodey fleck pattern Cerakote versus the obnoxious bluish green and yellow tiger stripe pattern that you sometimes see with Rhodesian FALs. The Bush Tracker is equipped with a 21-inch premium standard profile barrel made of 4150 mil-spec barrel steel, ensuring durability and optimal performance with a chrome-lined chamber and bore. The barrel features a 1 in 10 twist rate. It's threaded 9/16 by 24 left hand for traditional FAL muzzle devices, which can be a little tricky if you want to attach a suppressor. This one comes with a Belgian-style combo flash hider muzzle brake. This rifle's receiver is a 4140 fully machined, heat-treated cast steel Type 1 carry handle cut receiver, according to Larry Vickers in this excellent Forgotten Weapons video about the subject. Most Rhodey rifles had their carry handles cut off after one deflected a shell that actually took out a soldier's eye. The Bush Tracker comes with US-made glass-filled nylon furniture, painted to match, so it looks great. The rifle operates on a traditional FAL fixed stock operating system with the recoil spring in the stock and a fully adjustable gas system with a stainless steel gas piston. The Bush Tracker comes with a 20-round metric magazine. The FAL was, in my opinion, ahead of its time. You're talking about a gun that uses an adjustable gas short-stroke piston operating system, which is now considered by many to actually be the most technologically advanced, most reliable gas system. It's similar to what's going to be used in the military's new SIG MCX rifles. While the FAL was historically regarded as reliable, the Israelis reportedly had issues with the FAL in arid, sandy environments, prompting their change to long-stroke AK-type firearms such as the Galil. And in spite of the fact that the FAL uses a piston operating system, it's a remarkably simple design. You hit this little tab right here, gun breaks in half. Rat tail, you pull the bolt right out, and then you can just pop this bolt out. Bolt comes right out. There's your bolt carrier group right there. That easy. You can maintain it, lube it, whatever it is you need to do. Goes right back in, and then boom. That's it. Very easy to maintain. Also a little bit ahead of their time with gas adjustment. That's like a new thing everybody asks with these new piston-fired ARs and these space-age next-gen carbines. They were doing this shit way back when with the FAL. This is the gas adjustment right here. It's that easy. The FAL is one of my most favorite rifles of all time. I actually owned an Austrian STG-58, which might be the gun I regret selling the most. The FAL's pretty light and trim for a 308 design. It's not really amenable to lighter calibers. It's been done before, but not well. A little bit like Paris Hilton making an album. You guys remember that? I mean, just because you can doesn't mean you should. 20 years ago today, I could buy metric FAL magazines for a few bucks each. Right now, for some reason, surplus FAL magazines are impossible to get. I was shocked. I bought a bunch of Thermold brand magazines for less than 20 bucks each. Got that name recognition, you know. We know Thermold magazines. They're probably the best options out there, right? Because Thermold's been making mediocre but passable polymer magazines for decades, a bit like Magpul's underachieving drunk uncle. Spoiler alert, they are absolute dog shit. Yep, another malfunction. Gonna be a long day today. Guess we're only going to be using the surplus mag. The one surplus mag that we have. I knew these things wouldn't work. The FAL performed well in the Bush War. Nations that militarily assisted Rhodesia could have been sanctioned, so support was given clandestinely. Their neighbor, South Africa, was willing to assist, but in a way where they could maintain plausible deniability, even if it might not have been all that convincing. The solution: sanitize the rifles, remove all identifying marks, serial numbers, not the least of it. FN was making South Africa's FALs. They would include a South African crest on the magazine well, so this would be drilled off. DSA, with great attention to detail, made the same drill mark in the mag well. Other identifying marks were also removed from the FALs brought into Rhodesia, and often new serial numbers were applied with an electro pencil. Again, DSA replicated these handmade serial markings on the components, such as the bolt carrier. The big draw here with this rifle is obviously the expert Cerakote Rhodey paint job. It's got a few other little details, but really, you're buying this because you want a traditional looking FAL with a Rhodey paint job and the Rhodey look. They also modernized it a little bit. It's more muted than the traditional bluish, greenish, yellowish, baby poop green, virtually the technical nomenclature for the color used often on these FALs at this point. The FAL was reliable and ahead of its time, but how accurate is it? It's tough to say. A weak point of the FAL rifle is the fact that it uses a thin and flexible top cover similar to the AK-47, which is unsuitable for use with an optic, and the FAL was primarily used without any sighting device other than the iron sights it came with, which are crap. Even the AK's notoriously rudimentary iron sights are, in my opinion, better than what comes on the FAL. And like the traditional AK, a classic FAL also has a simple but functional fixed butt stock, but it doesn't work for everyone. Finally, in my experience, the FAL has one of the worst, stiffest triggers out of any traditional or modern military rifle. When you combine all of those things, accuracy is a little bit subpar. We threw an off-the-rack Bush Tracker on the bag at 100 yards, shot a 5-round group with it using iron sights, and here's how that went. So we threw together a couple of groups from prone, just casual fire, prone, using the generally awful sights from the FAL. And as you can see here, this one is roughly 7 inches, and then this one, this group right here, like 6.5. Like I would say 100 yards, even 200 yards with the iron sights, you could probably make hits on a man-sized target, but we can fix that. And in fact, I'm going to call DSA right now. A little unimpressive, huh? I know this gun's mechanically more accurate than that, so how do we squeeze this accuracy out? Get the potential out of this gun. That was my goal with today's video. I wanted to do like the ultimate FAL. I love the gun. I love the Rhodesian makeshift camo, but I'm not a huge fan of obsolescence. The original FAL is a sex machine, but it certainly doesn't compete with a 21st century semi-automatic 308 battle rifle, which is a shame because it uses this ingenious design with basically the same operating system used by all of the most modern combat rifles. The good news is that you can actually twist a little more performance out of the FAL with a little time, money, and patience, but mostly the money part, you know. In my opinion, the #1 major shortfall of the FAL is difficulty mounting an optic on the standard top cover. Fortunately, DSA has been making an optics-ready top cover for years that holds zero very well, looks great to boot, but you still aren't in the clear after you install your optic rail. You gotta get a suitable optic and a mount for it. Trickier than you would think. I wanted something built for 308. I wanted an FDE to kind of go with the gun. Fortunately, Primary Arms had me covered. Primary's up there right now for me with Holosun as like 2 of the only budget-minded manufacturers that are still trustworthy. The optic I chose for this video, I'm looking at right here, it is the Primary Arms PLX Compact 1:28 by 24 first focal plane. Really good, really light, really clear. Not really that cheap, even though it's kind of a good bargain. It's made in Japan. It compares very favorably to my Night Force 1:8X at half the price. This is a similar strategy to Maven optics, which are also Japanese made, and they're quite good for the money. The PLX was great during this review. Clarity and illumination were excellent. 1:8X magnification, LPVO, first focal plane, all the rage these days. Anything between 1:4, 1:8, really popular options for keeping the weight reasonable and being able to actually use your optic anywhere from 25 yards to 500 and beyond. Right now, I think these are on back order or pre-order for $1,500. I could be wrong, but I'll try to remember to drop a link in the description. Now here's the tricky part. I got the optic with this really nice one-piece scope riser from Primary Arms, but because there's already a significant offset with the FAL, the drop of the stock, and the height of your optic, this Primary Arms mount was a little bit too tall. So I swapped it out with a slightly lower Sig Sauer mount, which is probably the exact height that you'd want to keep the optic low enough so you can get that good cheek weld on the stock, but high enough for your optic to clear your receiver and still maintain that good cheek weld as we mentioned. And you know what helps with that? A modular precision-minded stock like I have here. DSA makes a kit for the FAL that allows you to move the recoil assembly and the butt stock into the receiver. This was referred to as a para conversion because it was installed on Belgian paratrooper versions of this rifle. DSA makes a folding battle rifle stock, which I have here, known as the BRS. It folds to the right side of the rifle, allowing it to fire while folded. The cheek piece adjusts without tools. It has 4 settings. There's 7 length of pull settings. several sling attachment points, great stock. Doesn't include a para conversion. For that matter, I almost wish I hadn't Cerakoted it to match the gun. Looks great, but baking this polymer stock made all the adjustments super tight. But, you know, it does look good. I still want to trim the barrel down to 18 inches, install a muzzle device for a suppressor, might look at a trigger job, maybe a railed handguard, might be a little bit too tactical, but after that, you're talking a fully modernized FAL. That costs about the same as a used 1998 Civic, but literally 0 dudes will silently admire your reasonable sedan from 6 bays over at the range. This, on the other hand, one of the sexiest rifles I've ever seen. So optic and adjustable stock were added. How was performance improved? Before we bring you to the thrilling conclusion of this video, let me make a pitch to you. We are viewer supported. Neither DSA nor Primary Arms paid me to make this video or to say good stuff about their gear. We rely on you, Patreon, Utreon, Subscribestar. If you're on Utreon or Subscribestar, we give away $1,900 of gift certificates to Top Gun Supply and Blue Alpha every single month. You are automatically entered if you're at the $5 level or higher, or $4.99 level, I guess, for Utreon or Player or whatever it is now. So do us a favor, help us out. We also have to thank Top Gun Supply for supporting us with those gift certificates that we turn around and give right to you. And thank you to Ventura Munitions for sending the ammo that we used in this video, along with Agala, who also sent us quite a bit of different .308 that we used in these accuracy tests. We set up on the bag at 100 yards to test the accuracy of the FAL. Bear in mind, we're using a somewhat imprecise combat style optic here with mid-level magnification. Related to that, at 8x, the glass on this Primary Arms PLX was clear, but the eye box does get a little bit tight, but that's the case with most 1 to 8x optics, even top tier models, whenever you have them all the way out. On the upside, the reticle illumination was excellent and very bright, very visible, even in broad daylight. Agala 150 grain 308, full metal jacket, boat tail. Kind of nicer range ammo, not quite match stuff, but this should do pretty well. Let's find out. Remarkably consistent 3.6 inch group. Ryan, you squeezed out a 3-inch group after I made fun of you. 3.5, 3.6. Now we're gonna try S&B 165 grain precision rifle ammunition. Love the guys at S&B. I've been to their factory in the Czech Republic and it is top notch. S&B 165 grain 308, 3.5 inches, 3.4 inches. The good news is that even with this stiff factory trigger and only 8x magnification, we more than doubled our accuracy from the FAL by adding the PLX, an optic mount with solid rings, and an adjustable stock. The bad news, 3-inch groups are best group of the day, on top of a bunch of 3.5-inch groups. So 3 to 3.5-inch groups.
And it's the same no matter what ammo.
Yeah, it's the same no matter what. It's remarkably consistent. Accuracy was still 3 inches at 100 yards with many different types of ammo, but surprisingly consistent. I'd surmise that we'd probably knock off maybe about 1 inch of our accuracy if we also upgraded the trigger, got a longer optic, and shortened the barrel to 18 inches. Yeah, reducing the barrel length would slightly reduce velocity as well, but with a thinner profile barrel, it should also counteract barrel whip. At least that's my theory. Generally speaking, the FAL as a platform, wonderful to shoot. If you get the gas tuned correctly, it's mild, it's reliable, and there's nothing much sexier than an 18 or dare say a 16-inch para conversion in the 308 world. Not even close. And DSA makes the best one, maybe the only one at this point. They've been doing it for a long time. They're probably the last man standing. I've seen other FAL manufacturers discontinue their models or just flat out go out of business over the years. So if you want a FAL, whether it's classic, modernized, or maybe a hybrid of both like this one, they are your ticket. I mean, for a gun that's creeping up on a century in age, it's doing all right. Not exactly the accuracy that I really wanted to see out of it, but I think we could also do better. Now the question is, how much is that going to cost? Because these guns aren't cheap, especially once you start adding the mods. But at the end of the day, we like what we like. If you want a car that looks good with a classic flare and it'll go pretty fast with a great sound system, then buy a Mustang GT from the dealership. Can you buy a 69 Mustang and make it about as fast as an off-the-lot 2023 GT? Maybe, but it's also going to cost you a lot of money to do it. But sometimes it's worth the spend to get the style. I mean, I guess you could just buy an AR-10 for a third of the price. Probably has better accuracy. It's probably lighter, easier to find parts and everything. But then you've got an AR-10. Me, I'm into expensive Belgian battle rifles, short shorts, and baby poop, and women's breasts.